So it's been a little while since I've been on here, and for anyone that may have been expecting a sooner video, I apologize about that. I didn't want to post much in the way of an update because things have been pretty stagnant for the last, almost a month and a half or so from my last video. That gout attack I had was bad, and it's still to some level here. A few weeks ago, I hit a clinic and I ended up getting everything that I need to get rid of the attack except for one of the medications, colchicine, because it's just way too expensive. It's like $4 a pill because I don't have insurance. So either which way, I did get everything up to Uloric. I'll skip all that stuff, really good gout meds and stuff, and painkillers and everything like that. And well, I just didn't want to come on here and just say, hey, there's nothing new, I still can't walk, my foot's all bloated and everything like that. So that's the main reason I did not do any update videos. And I still haven't shaved. I'm headed home within the next couple weeks, so I'll probably do it then. At any rate, I weighed in today because I was successfully able to. It's been that painful that I can't even stand on my left foot. Walking has been a huge pain, but I still make sure that I take a shower every day. And, of course, I still have to go into these truck stops and whatnot. And we end up having to park pretty far away from them, pretty often because we drive all hours. I say we because I have a co-driver with what I do. It's my brother. It's an interesting situation, but all that aside, so let me get back to where I'm going to move forward from here. I am still not capable of picking back up on the carnivore diet because this gout attack is still here. I almost got a kidney stone in all of that. And the kidney stones I usually get when I have a large amount of uric acid in my blood, and then I start cleaning it out by taking an extra amount of the potassium citrate, or in the case of Uloric, because that does the same thing. That's just a pharmaceutical, but it's really high-powered stuff. It was the first med that they came up with in about 60 years for day-to-day treatment for gout. So I almost got a kidney stone, but I didn't, thankfully. And when I weighed in this morning, I was 257.4. When I had weighed in the last time at the tail end of the diet, I had lost 20 pounds. I went from roughly 275 to 255.4, somewhere in there. So I did gain about 2 pounds in the last month and a half, which is no big deal. I mean, that's under 1% of my entire weight. So, and that's easy to fluctuate between 1% of your weight in any given day. So that being the case, I'm going to switch completely to a 1 meal a day, very low carb. I have to be careful because typically low carb means meat. That's the easiest way to get low carbs because, even some vegetables have carbs. Fruits are loaded with them. If you think like vegetables, you're talking potatoes are loaded with them, and there's a lot of others. Even mushrooms have some, but I like mushrooms. But I like everything. Anyway, that's what I'm going to switch to for now. I'll switch to the 1 meal a day, and I'm going to get it strict. During this time, I was in a pretty bad place. And not like depressed, but just pain and just, not very productive of a person. I was still working my job, and that's the tough part because, everything could be doing pretty darn good. Like, I don't have a job over the weekend or whatever, and then I start working on Monday, and my shift is, generally sitting in the driver's seat of a truck for, the better part of 12 hours. You can only drive 11 hours, but, take breaks and all that stuff, and have to get up, walk around. But after the shift, my foot was a balloon, like so many times. But it's finally got to the point to where I've spent enough time out of the driver's seat because I ended up just taking a whole week to where there was no work for me. But thankfully there's concessions for, the company giving, little bit to hold you over when you have no work. That my foot isn't bloated like that. It still hurts to walk. I'm still limping, but it's not like, a balloon. So that being the case, I would say, I'm ready to move forward and get back to progressing on the diet. Now, one other thing, early on in the video, in like the first videos, maybe just the first one, I said I wasn't going to exercise. And that was very true. I mean, except, of course, I do have to walk, like whenever we park in a lot, sometimes I'll have to walk a quarter of a mile just to get to the building. Some of these truck lots are pretty big. And if I have to go to the building a couple times a day, I'm walking a mile a day, which that's, it's a little bit of exercise, not really much. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get myself to do some more walking, even though most of these truck stops stink and we're out in the middle of nowhere. And, a lot of times when we stop, because of the routes that I end up taking and the cargo I end up carrying, I don't spend very much time in populated areas. But I'm still going to try to change things up by adding a little bit of exercise in there, just walking. Because anybody can do that except for people that can't, and I was one of those people. So I'll just say it's one of the easiest ways to get any kind of basic exercise. I want to do that more because I want progress, and I want to be able to continue changing my body for the better, and becoming more and more healthy. I also didn't mention over the last 6 weeks or so, while I was going through this attack, at first I was only doing one meal a day, but I totally fell off that. Like, especially over the last week where we were sitting there for for doing nothing. I mean, spending most of my time in my truck because I'm there's nothing else to do. Don't want to spend money because I'm working on getting out of debt and everything too. I've got this other journey. I should start a video series about that, but whatever. Anyway, I was eating 3 meals a day, eating 3 times a day, even 4 times a day sometimes. It was snack when I want, eat when I want. And for the little bit of time I did it, it didn't affect me negatively. In fact, today is the first time that I went back to 1 meal a day. And hopefully I can hold on to that. Because even yesterday I ate twice. The day before I ate 3 times. And it wasn't exactly healthy food. I was in a different area that I've never spent time in, so I wanted to try some of the local fare. And, well, that's kind of the way it works sometimes when you're not strict with yourself. So, moving forward, I'm going to switch up, and I hope this isn't a disappointment to too many people, but honestly, I have to do what's good for me. I have to do what I can handle. And the goal is eventually to get back to carnivore if I can, but I want to get completely away from this gout attack because it's still here. And if I can do all that, when I get completely away and I switch back to carnivore, if I'm starting to experience bad side effects, I'll back out. And like I had mentioned earlier in the series, I may do on for 2 weeks, off for 2 weeks, and just keep going back and forth and just see how my body handles that. But if the next time around I just can't do it, I may be ineligible for the carnivore diet long term, or not necessarily long term, but even short term. Because last time I remember recording that it was the 10th of February. So it was only the 10th day of doing the diet that I started having gout pains again. And I mean, I was wearing sneakers and socks. So